Today, I'll show you how using underexposure on purpose and not listening to your camera can turn your images into something unforgettable. Have you ever taken a technically perfect photo? The exposure is right, the focus is sharp, but there's absolutely no emotion. The reality is that your camera can tell you what's perfectly exposed, but it cannot tell you whether it has emotions or not. It's just a machine, and you are listening to it. Everybody teaches you how to get the right exposure, perfect histogram, and the perfect measurements. But let me ask you something. Perfect for who? Your camera? A machine that does not know what you are feeling? When you trust your camera, you're letting it flatten your story. You're letting it decide what matters. Here's the reality. You should listen to your camera. Learn what it's telling you, understand its language, and then go do what you want in order to create more emotions. Because in the next section, I am going to show you that one tool that photographers trust the most and why it might be killing the emotions in your photographs. Alright guys, point number 1. Underexposure creates emotions. Yeah, you heard that right. Bright lights tell you everything, but shadows, they make you curious. Think about it. When something is dark, you lean into it. You get closer. You focus harder. You try to understand it. When you underexpose, you guide the eye. You create a direction. You create feelings. So let me ask you, do you want your clients or your audience to look all over your photo or draw them straight into your subject? Because when everything is evenly lit, nothing stands out. Nothing feels special. We don't remember the bright, safe scenes. We remember the storm, the twilight, the candlelight moment. And here's the secret. There does not have to be a huge contrast between dark and light in your photograph. Even a subtle difference of 1/3 of a stop is enough to guide the viewer's eye. Think about it. 1/3 of a difference can guide the viewer's eye. Because when we are looking at something, we see with our subconscious mind first. Only later does our conscious mind catch up. Your conscious brain might miss those tiny shifts in light, but your subconscious never ever does. And that's why a very small shift in exposure can make the image feel much deeper. Even if the difference is barely visible, underexposure creates that feeling. It's not about making things dark, it's about making things deeper. So here is a simple fix. Next time you shoot, dial your exposure down by just half of a stop. Don't expose for the entire image. Expose for what you want your clients to see. Your subject, right? Expose with intention. I promise you, you'll start seeing images with more soul and more emotions. And here's another one. You need to understand what your camera is really saying to you. What is it saying? And then do what you think is creating more emotion. All right, so in the next section, let's talk about what your camera understands and what it does not. Point number 2, your camera does not understand emotion. Your camera is smart. It measures light and shows you a perfect histogram. But here's what it cannot do. It does not know your subject. Only you do. It does not know the story you're trying to tell. It does not know what you want your client or yourself or your audience to feel. The camera was designed to get all the information and pass it on to you in order for you to read it and make up your own mind. And in a way, it tells you what's right and what's wrong, meaning right exposure or wrong exposure. But emotions don't live in information. You have to do something about that information. Emotions live in contrast, in tension, and that is what you need to decide. When you trust your camera blindly, you're asking a machine with no soul to make a decision only you can make as an artist. And that's the mistake so many of us make as photographers. We listen to something that has no soul, no heart, no heartbeat. We see a perfect exposure reading and we stop thinking. We start shooting what's correct and end up with images that are absolutely empty with no emotions. Then what do you do instead? You read your information, you listen to your information, and then you serve the emotion. And that's how you move from a snapshot to storytelling. And that's how you stop exposing for perfect exposure and start exposing for feelings. In the next section, I'll show you how I do that exactly. How I read my camera's feedback, what it's telling me, and then use it to make creative decisions. Decisions that will help me bring out the emotion. Alright guys, let's keep going. Point number 3. How do I shoot for mood and underexposure? So how do I actually do it? It starts before I even raise the camera to my eye. I ask myself 2 simple questions. What do I want people to feel? And where do I want their eye to go? Once I know that, then I decide what deserves the light. Not everything in my photograph deserves attention. Not everything deserves to be seen. When I'm framing a shot, I'm already thinking about what should be the brightest point and what should disappear in the shadow. Only after that do I glance at my camera's meter. Not to obey it, just to understand what it's trying to tell me. If it tells me I'm underexposed by half a stop for the entire frame, I'm absolutely okay as long as where my emotion is living is exposed perfectly. I expose for what I want people to feel. I expose to guide the eye. I expose to tell a story, not to make the histogram happy. That's why the brightest part of my image is not the entire scene. It's one detail, one face, one moment. The rest can live in the shadows. And shadows basically shapes the mood. It invites curiosity because if everything is lit 100%, I will not be able to direct my viewer's eye. And everything in the frame is going to scream. But when only one thing is lit in my frame, that's what people will remember. That's where the focus is going to go. That's where they're going to zoom in when they're looking at my image. Alright guys, point number 4. Master the camera's language. Your camera speaks few languages. Histogram zebras are the 2 most important for me. Here's the reality. You must master at least one. For me, it's a histogram. Because the histogram for me gives me a full story. A simple, clear readout of my image right there in front of me. One glance and I know exactly where my lights and my shadows are living. If I've done my preparations properly with metering, the histogram tells me where the emotion is in my frame. So where is the emotion? The emotion is, for the most part, for me, in the brightest spot. So you look at your histogram and you say, okay, here is my emotion. Everything else can go. I don't really care. Now, how much do I want to push this emotion? How much do I want to make it darker? How much do I want to make it brighter? It's totally up to me. As long as I know where my emotion is sitting on the histogram, that is the key to success. And how do I know that? If I meter it correctly, by intentionally saying to yourself, I'm going to make this darker, this darker, this darker. This is going to be the brightest because this is my subject. Now, when you start looking at your histogram, all you have to do is look at your brightest and say, that is where my emotion is. What do I do with it? How much can I push it down? How much can the darks live in the dark? How much can I push it up? How much do I want my darks to get brighter? That is all that there is to this histogram game, the language that your camera speaks. What the histogram really does, it gives you a precise readout. It doesn't give you opinions. It just gives you facts. It's up to you how you utilize those facts. And I've just gone over how you should utilize those facts. Zebras are very useful as well. But for me, mastering the histogram has been a huge game changer for me. Because when you master one language, you stop guessing. You stop doubting. You will have clarity. I promise you. That's how you stop fighting with your camera and start creating exactly what you want. I hope you guys have understood how important it is to place your emotions where you want it. I personally place it in the brightest spots for the most part, but I also have placed it in the darkest spot. And what do I do there? When my emotions are living in the darkest spot, then my attention is going to go to the darkest spot. And I want everything else to fall out. Let everything get brighter. Just pay attention to where your emotion is. Everything else in your frame will fall in its own place. I promise you, I guarantee you, it will have so much more meaning to everything. Key to success on reading histogram is to do your metering correctly. So the next time you go out to photograph something, don't just chase perfect exposure, perfect for your camera. Don't just go listen to your camera and assume it knows better than you. It does not. It can show you what's safe. It can show you what's technically correct, but it'll never ever show you how something feels. That's your job. Expose for emotions. Expose for the story. Expose for the feelings you want your audience to feel. And not just feel at that moment, but feel long after they have left viewing your image. Underexpose if you need to. Break the rules when you have to. Shape the light in a way that evokes emotion. I have to be honest, when something is underexposed, I go this way, right? I look into it more. Because that is the difference between taking a picture and creating a memory. Alright guys, this is it for underexposure, not listening to your camera, creating emotions. Go create emotions in your photographs, and it does not have to be super dark and super light. It does not. I'll see you guys in the next. Thank you.